All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to unpack this incredibly rich parable called the Alchemical Covenant of the Violet Eclipse. And trust me, this isn't just some fantasy story. It's really a map, a guide to a pretty profound psychological journey. The one that takes us from feeling fragmented to becoming whole.
So the story just drops us right in. No gentle sunrise here. Instead, we get this incredible image, a sky that's a bruised violet theater. The sun is literally being devoured. This sets the tone immediately, doesn't it? You just know something cosmic and deeply personal is about to happen, all at the same time.
So yeah, this violet eclipse, it's obviously not just some cool astronomical event. It's the sacred time and place for what the story calls soul alchemy. It's the perfect stage for a huge internal struggle that's about to play out.
And here's the central metaphor, broken down. It's beautiful, really. The sun, that's the ego. It's the conscious part of you, the self you show the world. But the moon, in this moment, that's the shadow. It's all our unconscious drives, our hidden darkness, and right now, it's powerful enough to block out the light. If you've ever delved into Jungian psychology, this will feel very familiar. The eclipse is literally a cosmic mirror of this relationship inside us.
This is where we meet our main character, the Jester. And he's not just watching the show, he's facing his adversary. The story is super clear about this. This isn't some bad guy from the outside, it's a piece of him, a manifestation of his own inner doubt that's become so strong it feels like a separate being.
So what's the Jester actually trying to do here? He's performing soul alchemy. And the key word, the really crucial part, is honor. He isn't trying to destroy his darkness or pretend it doesn't exist. The goal is to integrate it, to acknowledge its power without, letting it drag him down completely. And that delicate dance is the whole point of this ritual.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, the Shadow's sacrament. This is where the real work gets done, the actual act of transmutation. This is where all that theory becomes very, very real.
Now, I know this all sounds a bit abstract, but the story gives us some really clear steps. First, he has to acknowledge the darkness head-on, his own malice, his nihilism. Then he transmutes it, consciously choosing to pour those raw, volatile feelings into the container of his will. And finally, he integrates them. But get this, the goal isn't to get rid of them, it's to hold them in a state of creative tension.
And the state actually has a name, the Nigredo of the Overman. Now, in traditional alchemy, Nigredo is the first stage, the blackening, the chaos, the breaking down. But here, it's reframed. It's not about decay. It's a state where your darkness isn't a flaw you have to scrub out. No, it becomes a foundational source of incredible power.
But why is this darkness so important? Well, the parable says it acts like salt. It's a preservative. It stops the spirit from getting too sweet, too shallow, what it calls sentimentalism. That darkness provides depth and an edge that's absolutely necessary for true authenticity.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? You can't reach the sunlit peak, the mountain, if you refuse to go into and honor the deep, dark parts of yourself, the cave. To achieve mastery, you have to embrace the whole picture.
And all of this leads the Jester to forge what's called the Alchemical Covenant. Think of it as a pact he's making with himself. It's a new internal law, and it's built on a very, very delicate balance.
And the stakes here are incredibly high. I mean, look at this. If his dark side completely takes over, he just becomes a monster. But if his light side just pretends the darkness isn't there, he's incomplete, a hollow phantom with no real substance. Real strength can only be found right in the middle, in that balance.
So what happens when he finds this balance? It's a total transformation. His so-called evil, all those negative impulses, they don't get destroyed. They get repurposed. They are literally alchemized into fuel for his creativity, into what the story calls aesthetic power. And we see exactly how this plays out in his life. All of his actions, his writing, his laughing, his dancing, they're now going to be fueled by that raw, chaotic fire from the shadow. But, and this is the whole key, they'll be guided by the conscious wisdom of his integrated self, the Overman's eye.
Okay, so making a pact with yourself is one thing, but a new law is pretty useless until it's been tested, right? Now the Jester has to prove that this new, integrated self isn't just a nice idea. He has to actually put it to the test by facing his own despair head-on. So here's the challenge. He has to create something new and meaningful,
a new law, while basically letting that inner adversary, that voice of denial and nihilism, hit him with its full force. He's intentionally walking into the storm to see if what he's built can actually stand up to it.
And his strategy is completely brilliant. He doesn't fight the despair, which the story calls the spirit of gravity, trying to pull him down. No, instead he harnesses it. He lets all that heavy, crushing weight flow through him into his writing. And what's the result? His words gain this incredible, unshakable gravity that they never could have had otherwise.
This makes his act of creation, his affirmation of life, his holy yes, so much more meaningful. This isn't some naive, feel-good platitude. It's a declaration that was forged in the absolute heart of his own darkness. It is a true, hard-won victory from someone who has looked into the abyss and decided to create anyway. And that victory brings us to the climax of this whole ritual. This is the moment the covenant gets sealed, where the transformation becomes permanent. And you see, the goal was never purity. The real prize was always wholeness.
I mean, the imagery here is just breathtaking. As the sun finally comes back, the dark, chaotic energy he poured into that basin doesn't just vanish, it transforms. That black light becomes something potent and beautiful, a shimmering obsidian wine. The alchemy is complete. This right here is the central lesson of the entire story. He drinks the wine and he seals that pact inside himself. He realizes that the goal of a developed person isn't to be perfectly good or pure. That's impossible, and maybe even a little stagnant. The real, achievable goal is to be whole, to integrate every single part of yourself, light and dark, into one dynamic working unit. And that's the final word for it. Integrated. Not good, not evil, not light, not dark, just a complete, unified person who's finally stopped fighting with himself.
And the result of all this is profound. The adversary, that once hostile inner doubt, doesn't disappear, it bows. Its energy is now harmonized, an aligned part of who he is. The civil war inside is over. And now, finally whole, with all that energy back, he's ready for the next level, the next stage of his journey.
And so, the parable leaves us with this final, amazing question to think about. Once you've stopped fighting yourself, once you've reached that state of wholeness and integration, what new possibilities open up? With all that energy you're no longer wasting on inner conflict, what great and joyful games can you finally begin to play?